Welcome to Pack PRsonal, the mini sub-series of Personal, where we get to meet the real Pack member behind the professional. In this episode, I'm chatting to Emily Bennett, who is social media and digital manager. Welcome, Emily. So, Emily, how was primary school for you?
Well, we're starting at the beginning. Looking back, generally, quite happy. There was obviously things that happened that weren't so happy, but overall good. But obviously them little things that do happen affect, being such a young age, affect you for the rest of your life.
Okay, do you want to go there?
Yeah. So I was bullied quite a lot, just by one individual. Looking back, he probably had a lot of insecurities himself, and it was put on me, which obviously isn't fair, but it happened, you get over it, sort of thing. It was hard, but I sort of went through it myself. No one really seen it, no one really knew it was happening, and then there was this one incident, and it happened literally as I was walking out of school, and it just hit me then, it just all came out, and I was bawling my eyes out. And my mum came and picked me up, luckily, and I just ran to her crying, and then that's when I told her, and it was resolved. He was suspended from school, and I wasn't put in any classes with him. I wasn't in any situation with him again. It's quite hard to talk about.
Oh, bless you. Well, you don't have to talk about it.
No, I think it's good too. And then we went to the same secondary school, and once we found out that he was going to the same one as me, my mum was obviously quite concerned that it could start again. So she actually contacted the school and was like, I don't want them in a class together, I don't want this to happen again. Surely you don't want that either. So, they made things happen. We weren't in the same classes together up until about year 10, when we were put in this class together, and I'm sure I was asked if it was okay, and I was I think it'll be okay. And it was. We weirdly became friends, which is, looking back, it's so weird. He made me feel like that however many years ago, and then we were sort of friends later on. It was really bizarre looking back, but I'm glad it happened. I'm glad I went through that, and I'm glad of the outcome that, we're okay.
You're glad you got bullied?
Yeah, I'm glad that I developed that thick skin to sort of deal with it. I would do things, if it happened again, which I'm sure it wouldn't, I would do things completely differently. And when I hear of situations now of kids getting bullied, I'm just well, why don't they say anything? But I was in that situation, I didn't. So when you are in that situation, it is really difficult to say something. But looking back, it's really weird answer to that question. But yeah, it made me who I am.
Do you ever talk about it with your friend now? Are you still friends with him?
No, not really so much now. Obviously, it's been so long since we finished secondary school. But I'm sure if I'd seen him, I'd go and say hello. Yeah.
Were there any other challenges that you faced in primary school?
Yeah, I started puberty really young.
Goodness.
Really young. I was 8 or 9. So yeah, I didn't even know what was happening. No one talks to you about things at that age because you don't think it's going to happen.
No.
12, 13 is the normal age. So yeah, when it started happening, it was when my boobs were coming in. I honestly thought I was dying. And you do. And I swear this situation happened, but my mum is just no, it must have been a nightmare. I can remember I was sat on our sofa, and my mum was on the phone to her mum, and she came off the phone, and she said, well, if this continues, my boobs going, you'll have to get them taken out.
What? A bit extreme.
So extreme. So that really scared me for like months and months. I thought that was like they'd continue going, they'd have to be like taken out. It wasn't until like I was looking around like, actually no, other people have these. Like it's normal. So yeah, I swear that situation happened, but my mum was just like, no, that is a dream. That did not happen. I would not say that to you. But yeah, it was quite scary at the time, like obviously going through like them changes and obviously being so young and not knowing. And then I started my periods like 2 years later, so I was like 9 or 10, which is still really young.
That's brutal.
So young, I had no idea what was happening at all. Just you don't think that it happens, and I just had no idea. I didn't tell anyone for days, and
Well, how did you manage not telling anyone?
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know the words to use to say like, this is happening, like what is it? I just did not know at all, even though a couple of years before we were on holiday and my sister came on her period, so couldn't go in the pool as much, couldn't go like in the sea, and I had questions then. And my question was, like, is she pregnant? It was complete opposite. But like that's what I thought was happening at the time. But if they'd have just said to me, oh, she's on a period and you'll have this, then it would have been okay when it did happen to me. But that wasn't the conversation.
No.
So when it did happen to me, I was just about like, I don't know what it is. I don't know like if this is normal or not. So I just like sort of carried on as normal.
Bless you.
And like when my mum saw, she was like, oh yeah, this is happening. I was just like, well, what is it? And that's obviously like when after like the conversation with her, and it's going to happen every month for the rest of your life. Great being a woman.
I know, but going through that so young as well, because I guess maybe the primary school wasn't equipped for that either with the toilet facilities.
No, definitely not. We took in like my own like sanitary products. Like the school didn't have that at all. I had to take them in every month. I remember like there was like a secret part of like a cupboard in like the classroom where they were there for me to go and get, because there was nobody else, like no other girls in like my school that in my class, that started. So
and even like the special sanitary bins and stuff.
Not there at all.
Oh, it's madness.
Really, really difficult, but it's part of being a woman.
I know, but dealing with it so young must be really hard. And I guess there's that whole stigma attached to like with your sister. And again, your parents wouldn't have done it on purpose. They're probably protecting you. But it's like all the whisperings about what it was and everything. It'd just be nice to talk about it.
Like it should be like more openly spoke about. I can remember had like a sex ed talk at the end of like primary school. So like we were in year 6 about heading to secondary school, and that's when there was first like broached to like the rest of the class that this is periods, this is what's going to happen. But I'd already been through that for like nearly a year, so I was just like, I know all this.
You could have done the class.
Exactly. So that was like everyone else's like first experience of periods, but I'd already been through it. I knew everything.
And how were the other kids when you were going through it? Were they understanding, or did they not know what was going on?
I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone. My mum actually said to me like, it's not like a well talked about subject, which it should be, because it's quite like it's down there, and people don't tend to talk about vaginas and penises, especially as kids. So my mum said like, try not to tell everyone. So I didn't even like tell my best friend like that I'd started. It was only like when they'd started that I was actually like, oh well, I started quite some time ago.
It's such a shame, really. You know, especially with the majority of women going through it.
We should be like more open about it, and especially like with kids, because they don't have the words to say what's happening.
Exactly.
Like they don't know, so we need to educate them to know what's happening.
I'll tell a funny story, but I might ask for it to be cut out. But Cameron walked in, my 3-year-old at the time, maybe younger, I think maybe just 3, and I was changing a sanitary towel. And I thought, she just barged in, as they do. And I thought, oh my goodness, she's going to have so many questions, or be scarred from seeing all this blood. And actually just looked at it, like, Mummy, why have you got jam in your pants? And And it was just such a sweet, like, honest presumption. I just laughed and was just like, I don't know, darling. Obviously, if she's a bit older, I will try and talk to her about
Remember
things.
when Mummy had jam in her pants?
Yes.
A good conversation off that.
Yes. But brilliant. And then, thankfully, I got pregnant and she hasn't had to see any of that for a while. So, yeah, it was not that I'm pregnant now. I got pregnant, had the baby, still breastfeed. So, yeah, we haven't revisited. Just to clear that up, not pregnant, that's not an exclusive. Don't worry, Chris. But yeah, changing the subject a little bit. A lot of our clients, I suppose, they probably don't know that you actually trained as a nurse before starting at Harvey and Hugo.
Yeah.
So why did you not end up going down that route?
There's quite a few reasons. One, I realised when I was doing like my placement that I don't like blood. Made me a bit queasy. Which
Sorry for just the conversation just now.
Obviously a main part of the job, seeing blood on a daily basis. So, it wasn't really for me. I was allergic to the hand sanitizer in hospital. So my hands were just dry as hell and I couldn't do anything, could hardly help people.
Yeah.
So I was just like, what am I getting out of this placement if I can't do my job, like do what I was supposed to be doing. And yeah, it was quite a difficult time in my life. My grandma was dying. She was a nurse, so she was sort of like my inspiration to go down that route. And I decided to stay at home and study with her dying, just so I could be close and obviously there for at the end. So when, it all sort of like came to a head, and I realised like I didn't want to do it, I cried myself to sleep for about 2 weeks. I was absolutely exhausted and I was going to placement and having to put on this like cheery face, to patients and do what I was there to get the experience that I needed to get in order to like advance further on in my degree. It was a very difficult time and obviously it just all came to a head. I'd had like a really bad morning.
Sorry to interrupt, but just a quick word about our sponsor, Be Daily. I've been subscribing to the Be Daily now since starting my business. It provides relevant and informative information directly to my inbox, not just about the North East, but also national news. If you're interested in subscribing, we'll put the link in the description box so you can get the business news directly to your inbox. Now back to the podcast.
Yeah, so it was quite a difficult time and it just all sort of came to a head one morning. And I just had like a really bad morning and I was driving to my placement and I just broke down in my car. I was actually thinking of ways to like hurt myself but not hurt anyone else. So it was so difficult. I was like, well, I don't want to hurt anyone else by hurting me. Like I was in my car. I could have done something, but I didn't want to hurt anyone else, so I just got my phone out and rang my mum. I was just like, I can't do this. So I rang her, crying. I was actually around the corner from my grandad's house, and she was like, well, you can't go in there. You can't go in there, like, you stay that you're in, he'll have a heart attack. So yeah, I came home and just talked it through. So yeah, I went home, talked it all through with my mum, told her I didn't want to do it. I was, really upset that I wasn't sort of like following in my grandma's footsteps. It wasn't long after she'd like died. I was so upset. I thought everyone would be like really disappointed in me. But mum was like really, really supportive, like she always is. Just like, as long as you need to be happy, and then everyone else will be. And during like the couple of weeks before, I had been like thinking like, well, what can I do? I can't just finish that and do nothing. I need to be busy all the time. I need to have something like to look forward to. So yeah, I was looking at marketing degrees at Teesside Uni. I knew I wanted to stay like close to home. I am a home bird. So yeah, wanted to stay close to home. Spotted like marketing. I was just like, I think that's it. And, like rest is history. Graduated a couple of years ago, got my first job here.
Yay, and you're doing fabulous as well. So
Thank you.
I'm glad you didn't go into nursing. I'm glad you went through those difficult decisions. And obviously I didn't know, did you say it's your gran or your nan? Or
Yeah, gran.
Gran, I didn't know her, but I'm sure as long as you're happy, she'll be happy looking down on you.
Yeah, they won't understand what I'm doing now, but
oh no.
No one does, but yeah, she will be happy that I'm happy.
yeah, when my gran was still alive, she'd always say, Charlotte, what is it that you're doing again? Just in the end, we settled on just advertising, promoting other businesses. I think she kind of got a bit every time. So what is it that you actually do? And social media, she was like, what? Yeah. What even is that?
So I explained that to my nana. I was like, do you know on your phone? I was like, do you know that there's a blue square and it's got an F in? I was like, that's a social media platform. I was like, I work on that. And there's other ones as well. I was like, that's the most basic form I can tell you what I do.
She probably thinks she just drew that.
Yeah.
Stuck it on her phone.
That's nothing.
Oh, brilliant. And we touched a little bit on loss, and I know we've spoken about it a bit in the past, and how, I don't think that I've really kind of dealt with the death of my gran, even though it was a while ago. I just kind of, I can't deal with this right now, I'm very sad, but let's just sweep it under the carpet. Yeah. Would you say that's something that you've experienced as well?
Definitely. Like my granddad, like my mum's dad, was the first one to go about 15 years ago, and obviously I was really young. Again, didn't know, it was like my first grandparent, first person I've ever lost in my life, so I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know all these stages of grief, and that it can hit you at certain points, it doesn't hit you there and then. So yeah, it was difficult at the time, but like you said, it was just sort of swept under. It happened over Easter as well, so I went to school after a week after it happened. So yeah, you just sort of like have to like quickly go back to your normal self. And then other grandparents that I've lost recently, I lost my nana at the beginning of this year, and I think that's like hit me the hardest because it was like my last grandparent, and if I do get married, if I do have children, can't see it happening, they're not going to be there, whereas other family members on like my other side of the family, they had that experience with their great grandchildren meeting them. So yeah, it was that really, and losing like my last grandparent, that was the hardest.
I agree. Yeah, same for me. And I got married abroad. She couldn't make it abroad, but she came to the party, so at least I had that. I've got some lovely photos. But the thing that gets me is that she never got to meet my grandchildren. And she always said, like, because she'd just be quite blazing about things, like she'd be like, when are you having children? I want to meet them. And little did she know, and I couldn't quite tell her because I didn't really tell anyone going through it, but we'd been trying and it just wasn't working out for us. And I just wish the timing had been a little bit better. Yeah. But yeah, that makes me feel emotional. And it's lovely that Chris's grandpa is still alive, and he's like in his 90s. He's their great grandpa. Yeah. And it's so lovely when they see him. But there's just a part of me, and I speak openly with Chris, I wish my gran could have seen them. Like, just so much, but I guess, it's life, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And grandparents are just like one of their own, and they're just so, old people are just so, don't care what they say, they're just so no filter at all. So like they sort of are like the best people to like be around, because you get the truth whether you like it or not, and you always have a laugh with them. So obviously not having that anymore, and I probably was, I didn't realise it at the time, I probably was closest to my nana, who like I lost earlier this year. I saw her the most, we probably most like similar personality. We've both got like this really like wicked sense of humour, both like really open and weird about death. Like we made like these weird death jokes, and when she knew she was dying, she was like, oh, when I die. I found that funny, other members of the family didn't. So yeah, I think that's why it hit me quite hard, because it was the last grandparent to lose, and also I was probably the closest to her.
Yeah, just missing them as a person. Yeah, totally. And actually, just talking about grandparents, I'm very lucky that my mum and dad are still alive as grandparents for the children, so I shouldn't complain, because some people don't even have that. Yeah. So I don't want to seem ungrateful at all. I'm so grateful for that. But it's, just missing them. I actually watched the Calvin Phillips, Man City now, football player, documentary the other day. And he actually said he would give up all his millions, all of the money he'd made through football for an extra, I think he even said extra extra hour with his gran, who was like a kind of parent to him. So yeah, just they are quite special.
They are. Yeah. If I was in that situation, I wouldn't know who to choose, because they're all just so different and like unique in like their own different ways. They all like supported me and were like a comfort to me in like different ways. Like my dad's dad was like really funny, like really sarcastic, and absolutely like loved that about him. My nana had this like wicked sense of humour. So yeah, like I would know if that was ever put to me, like who would you choose? Like you couldn't choose that, could you?
Good but brutal question. Yeah. And yeah,
it's like picking like your favourite child.
I know. Yeah, you just couldn't. I guess. Yeah, different moments maybe, but yeah. But yeah, it's just I just wish that I'd appreciated them so much more when I was younger. My granddad died when I was 3 on my mum's side. Then my gran just died from the most recently, about 5-6 years ago. I don't think time goes faster than you think. And and then my dad's parents probably about 10, maybe even longer. Again, I just don't like to think about it, so I just kind of move on with my life. But yeah, I
then you don't go through that grief.
No,
you don't grieve, right? Because you don't want to feel sad. You want to be happy. You want to get on with it, and they wouldn't want you to be sad.
You're constantly told that by your parents. They wouldn't want this. Just move on.
Yeah,
it's fine. So they were old.
You don't go through that process, which everyone should go through. I say this to my friend all the time, that I don't grieve right, and she's just like, there's no right way to grieve. I think it's because when I lost like my granddad, like the first person I lost, I had this dream a couple of weeks after he died that he was just on holiday and he'd come back, and it was so real. Like he was in his house, he was stood where he always stood, and that just sort of like, now I think to myself, do I think they're just on holiday? But it's quite a nice thing to think.
It is. Well, maybe they are, just in a different dimension. I was chatting with Becky the other day, actually. You know that moment for a split second when you wake up, when you've had a dream, and you think that they're still here?
Yeah.
And so I dream about, particularly the most recent gran, that she's just actually, she was okay. It's always the same dream. She comes back from hospital. She wasn't actually that poorly. She's still struggling a bit, but she's at home. She's at my mum and dad's house. And I always wake up and think, oh, well, that's good. Oh, actually,
it's just a dream.
Yeah, it's weird how your brain, in a way it's nice, it keeps them alive still, but then when you find out it's a dream, it's not so good.
No.
Very interesting times. And I think on previous podcasts I've talked about feeling like one of my grandparents has been a guardian angel through my life. Do you ever feel like that?
Probably when I was like making the switch from nursing, I probably did feel like most close to my gran then, even though she had just died like a couple of weeks ago. People were telling me like, she won't be disappointed in you, she will be happy if you're happy. So I probably did feel like close to her then, even though she wasn't actually here. But I don't know about the others and whether I feel them like around me like every day. I hope not. I hope they're sunning themselves on holiday.
Yeah, they're still on holiday, yes. Where are they on holiday?
Oh, my granddad is somewhere where you can get ridiculously tan, because he used to just like sniff the sun and he was brown.
It's like my dad.
Yeah. He had these palest legs, but like everywhere else was just like this gorgeous colour. So he's definitely he's somewhere hot. My other grandparents, my dad's parents, are probably somewhere like adventure-y, hiking somewhere. My nana's probably in a villa somewhere, not doing anything, just lazing by the pool.
Yeah, I like her style.
Yeah.
Brilliant. You touched on there, talking about children, grandchildren, grandparents. You already said it, you don't want children. You say it quite a bit, and I think that's totally fine. But do you think society has a problem kind of accepting that? Yeah,
definitely. As a girl, as a woman, like there's this stereotype that we want children. Not all of us do. Like, I don't feel like at this moment I don't want children. I don't see children in my future. That could change in a couple of years' time. Opinions are allowed to change. But at this moment I don't see children in my life. But yeah, there is this stereotype that because you're a woman, you want children, you want to be married and have this big family life. I do think it is getting better. I think when children are like growing up, that they're not necessarily told that, if it's a boy, for example, when you have a girlfriend, you know, it's not. It's like, oh, when you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whatever you choose,
Yes,
you sort of hear that a bit more now. Or be like, when you have kids, you know, you'll understand this. But yeah, not everyone does want kids, and I don't feel like I have a maternal bone in my body as much as my friend has just had a baby, and I absolutely love this baby. Like, she is just the world, like, to my friend, and you know, because my friend is, I'm so close to her that I can see that. But yeah, I don't see it in my future.
Yeah, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Actually, I used to always say I wasn't a maternal person. But then someone said to me, but you always like treated your dogs like babies. And I guess you treat your Marlowe like a baby.
Yeah, I'm a mother to children, but I am to dogs.
Fur babies.
Yeah, I'm a dog mum.
A lot easier.
Yeah. So, like, having her from a puppy, like, you have, like, you need patience when you need so much patience when you're training a puppy. So you sort of think then, oh, could I be a mother? Could I? And then, you know, they're up during the night because they're on away. I think, oh, could I do it? Could I? And then, you know, there's like one little thing that happens. I'm like, no. They're so naughty. But yeah, like, yeah, she is my child, and other dogs that I get in the future will be my child, will be my children.
And if you, like you say, if you change your mind, you change your mind. That's fine too.
Yeah,
you know, but
totally allowed to do that.
No, good for you saying what you want. And like I mentioned, I got married, engaged and married. I don't know why I got married. Let's just say I got married and had children. And I get a bit cross with myself that I conform to what society expects of a woman. But I guess it all just, I don't know, it just happened that way. But I really respect, I'm always like more championing women who don't kind of do that. Yeah. As well as the ones that do. You know, it's all personal choice at the end of the day.
It is, yes.
Cool. So I really don't see this, but you described yourself as having an awkward personality. Like, what do you mean by that?
It's so hard to describe, but like, sometimes I see myself as like so out there, I want to tell everyone everything, and then other times I'm just like, oh, no one knows anything about me, and you know, I'm sort of like to myself. But it's so weird that you can have that, them two sides to your personality, although there's so many different sides to everyone's personality. Like, just them like two sides are so like contrast of each other, that you can be outgoing and meet all these new people, whereas another side feels like just stand in a corner, don't talk to anyone. And that's how sometimes I think of like myself. Like, there's no like trigger, like when I will feel like outgoing, when I'll feel like a bit more closed in. Maybe if like I knew a trigger, then, you know, I could like sort of stop myself like being in that situation of being like really awkward. But yeah, I would describe myself as that, but other people probably don't see it, but it's probably more how I feel like inside.
Yeah, I don't see it as that. And also, I think what you've described could be true for a lot of people, like me as well. It's just, I guess personality is very complicated, isn't it?
Definitely.
Personality and character and how you behave in different sorts of situations.
Yeah.
Like, you're always being true to you, but just all the different environments that you're in.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like everyone has like this one personality, everyone is one person, but there's so many different sides to it. It's so, like you said, it's so complex.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the best way I can describe it in business, because in business I try and be outgoing because I know that's what is expected of me in a PR role. So I always liken it to a hat. I put my business hat on. When I take that off and I'm at social situations, like say for an example in a wedding, as me without that hat, without any kind of protective layers almost, I do shrink back a little bit, and it's very strange, but I do think it's normal. You know, I think a lot of people do feel like that. Again, people just don't talk about it so much because they're like, oh, this is me, I'm really outgoing, I'm bubbly personality. I think actually there's been a lot of talk lately about the rise of the introvert and how you don't have to be that way to still be seen as like an amazing person. You know, it's just different people. So yeah, glad that's changing. And one of the final questions is, how was COVID for you, and kind of what was the hardest part of it?
Hearing other people's like COVID like experiences, so it's so hard to hear because I loved it. This is like the introvert, the socially awkward person talking. I loved like lockdown and like being at home with my family, and it's just like me, my mum and dad at home at the time, and I loved it. I loved like being at home and having that time with them, especially I was at uni at the time, so I was like at the campus, like studying quite a lot, so being able to be at home, and I would never have that time again with them because, you know, now we're all working and, you know, life like goes on. So yeah, I loved it at the time. I lost my dog on like the first day of lockdown, so that was like really difficult, and I knew we were losing her. I knew she was dying. I just didn't know when. I didn't know when I was going to have to make that decision to take her to the vets. And obviously I made that decision, then came home, had a cup of tea, Boris came on the telly and was like, you are locked down. I knew like when that happened that I would take myself away because I wouldn't know how I was going to deal with it. Like my first dog, my first like responsibility. I didn't know how I was going to deal with it. And I couldn't do anything. I was just at home. So it was probably okay at the time because, you know, I was at home. I wasn't able to like go out and see friends. I didn't have to like put on this happy face. You know, I was around my family where I could cry all that I want. But yeah, generally, like looking back, like I do miss it a little bit. Just being at home doing nothing and still getting some money for fellow. But yeah, I wouldn't want it again. I wouldn't want the time again, obviously knowing how hard everyone else had it. But yeah, it was a time like I really do treasure, like having that time with like my family.
Oh, well, yeah, I know COVID was a mixed experience for everyone, but I'm glad that you found it positive on the whole. Okay, so regular questions. Scale of 1 to 10, the 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. How would you rate yourself at the next 10 things? How good looking are you?
Probably by the faces I'm pulling. I'd say like 6.
How funny are you?
Oh, I'd say 10, but other people probably wouldn't agree.
How good at cooking are you?
1. Beans on toast is my speciality.
Me too. How good at singing are you?
I would say 10. I'm not sampling that, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, you do. I do sometimes ask for a sample. How good at drinking alcohol are you?
Before like my 21st, I was amazing. Like out clubbing, like I could drink anything. I could mix my drinks, have anything. Day I turned 21, 2 drinks and I'm done.
Wow.
Literally.
That's quite young still to lose it.
To lose that. So I would say like a 4.
Okay. Parenting to your fur baby?
Oh, 10. She's amazing, so it's all on me.
Awesome. How good a friend are you?
Depends on my mood. I would say 9.
Brilliant. How intelligent are you?
I have my moments. 7.
Cool. How kind are you?
Let's go with 8. I would do anything for anyone if they asked.
Yeah, oh, lovely. And how good at sex are you?
0. Too lazy. But again, I've never asked for feedback and I don't want it. You've
probably given the first honest answer. Not saying the answer isn't 0, but most people are just like 10, 10, 10.
No, I couldn't lie.
Amazing. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Ryan from Harvey Hugo and I am the videographer here. So, are you looking for a new way to stand out in today's crowded digital landscape? Well, look no further than podcasting. Here at Harvey Hugo, we specialise in creating and producing high quality podcasts that engage and inspire audiences. And with our comprehensive production services, we'll take care of all the technical details, from the recording and the editing to the distribution and the promotion. With millions of listeners tuning in every day, it's the perfect time to start connecting with them on a deeper level. Let Harvey and Hugo help you unlock the power of podcasting and take your message to the next level.